All right, let's get into it. Today's episode is all about how to buy your very first investment property. This is kind of going to be a bit of a step-by-step guide. If you're a new investor or maybe you've got a property and you're just like, what the hell does the process look like? We're going to go through each step of what you need to do, some things you need to think about. And this is based on us buying millions of dollars worth of property every couple of months and obviously having our own property portfolio as well that we've built over the years. So we've done this a few times.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into the market and you're like, what the hell do I do? How do I do it? Grab a notebook, grab a pen, take notes. And if we're feeling up to it, we might put the description, the comments in the description as to what you can do.
Step by step.
But before we get there, tell us how you doing.
I'm doing good. I'm over this room, to be honest.
This room,
every time I come in here.
Yeah, before we turn these cameras on, we were having a bit of a
mental breakdown.
Yeah, mental breakdown. This room sucks, honestly. But we're in the process of rejuvenating the life of this room.
Yeah, I mean, I said that a month ago, and I feel like I haven't done anything. It's because I'm concentrating on other parts of the business and
we're buying
life.
properties, right? Yeah. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. This is an extracurricular activity.
Yeah, a little hobby on the side. I need to get my design skills on.
But I think we have got to a
fucking wheel spinning.
We've got to a point of where we wanted the room to be.
Yeah.
And we've ordered most of the stuff, hey?
Nothing.
What do you mean? I thought we did the table. We haven't done the table?
Yeah, no.
No, we haven't done the table. We haven't done the paint.
Well, I feel like our ideas just keep changing.
No, it was the music studio we sorted out. Yeah, sorry guys. Bit of a domestic meltdown.
Sorry about the eyesore, but hopefully there is value in the content.
I'm pretty sure there's value in the content. So, crappy podcast room aside,
we'll get it sorted for sure.
We'll get it sorted. Let's get into this one. It's a cracker.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I did a guide as well. Just because I felt like I was talking to a lot of younger investors who wanted to understand the process, and it could be overwhelming for the first time when you're doing this. So I think just having like a reference point of what to do, when to do it, just give you a bit of confidence and clarity. So I think that's why this podcast will be valuable to new investors, just so they know what to expect along the way.
Is that something we can put in the description? Like a little link to it or something?
I'll chuck it in there.
Little free ebook for you.
A little ebook. Yeah.
Because I like the work that you've done on that ebook.
Thank you.
It looks quite nice, and the content's good too. All right, let's start into this episode. You can't buy a property without knowing what your budget is, right? This is the best place to start. There's no point dreaming and putting together a plan to buy $1 million property when you can only buy a $500,000 property, right? So step number one is speak to your broker, all right? Or speak to a broker, maybe a couple of brokers, to get an understanding of what your borrowing capacity really looks like. Because from there, then you can start to build out the plan and do the rest of the things that we're going to talk to in the latter part of this episode. Step number one, understand your budget, speak to a broker to get a clear understanding of that.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously important if your goal is to buy multiple properties, talk to an investment savvy broker, because they'll set you up for finance correctly, and then that way you don't have to, backtrack on anything, and you're confident with your decision.
Yeah, we've mentioned this on loads of different podcasts. Just because they're a broker doesn't mean they know about investment properties and know how to structure investment property deals, etc. So yeah, ideally having someone who's a investment-minded broker is going to be good.
Yeah, 100%. And then from there, I think the next step obviously is actually setting in a plan once you know your borrowing capacity and how much you can buy for. The main thing with that is then asking and then being a bit introspective in calibrating what you want to do. So I would say based on your budget, you then need to ask yourself a few questions. That being, what type of growth do I need? Number one, what type of cash flow is going to be comfortable in my financial position? Do I want multiple assets? If this is my first one, do I need it to obviously grow in a very short period of time. Am I reno and flipping? And I'm buying it in an SMSF? Am I buying it in a trust? Because all those types of questions will then enable you to calibrate the actual property and deal that you're sourcing. So having a really clear guideline on your goal is the first step once you know you're borrowing. I think.
You said that really well. There's obviously a lot to that, but it is a really important step to really defining. Knowing that goal is going to really help the rest of what we're about to get into. But you framed it quite well. So
I think we talk about it in quite a few podcasts before. Most investors know it's basically called a strategy. So defining that not just for this property that you're going to purchase for, but also in the back of your hand, have a bit of a blueprint of what your overall objective is.
Yeah.
So that way you're working towards the right direction and you know everything that you're sourcing is going to align with your intent.
Yeah, and I think I just want to round that out. Like, it's definitely you want to have a plan and a strategy, but also be prepared to pivot on that plan and strategy as you progress through your life and you progress through the property investing journey. Like we have, you sometimes have to flick your journey and go, hey, I need to do this now or whatever. So just be prepared to kind of be flexible and know that it might have to change.
That's right.
So we've got a budget. We've sat down and we put together a plan and a strategy of what we want. What do our goals look like?
Yeah.
The next stage is where it starts to get a little bit more intense.
Deeper into the hole.
You're marching through the jungle now, because this is where you actually need to go into the research phase of your property journey. Now, this is where a lot of people can get stuck in an overwhelming amount of information, but you got to push through it. If you want to do it, you got to get through this stuff. So the reason why we're doing the research now is we know what we can borrow. We know what we want to do with that money. Now it's about taking those two things and going, okay, well, based on what I can borrow and what I'm planning to do or planning to achieve, what are the areas that are going to help me do that? What are the locations? What are the suburbs? Because it might not be in the city that you're living. It might be in another capital city. It could be in a interstate regional location. There's a whole bunch of different areas across the country that serve very different purposes for investors at different stages of their journey. So you need to know where they are. You got to know the right suburbs to go into. It's not just about investing in Melbourne because you're from Melbourne. That doesn't mean anything. It's about investing where you get the right result for what you're trying to achieve. So you got to have to spend some time here. And I think we can probably do a whole podcast series on how to do research when you're looking for an investment property. But I'm just going to flick out a couple things that people will want to pay attention to, right? So first and foremost, you want to understand what the growth or the long-term growth potential of the area is. You can do this by looking at historical information. You want to understand, on a general basis, what are the rental yields you can expect from that particular area? What do the vacancy rates really look like? What sort of infrastructure investments are going on? What sort of population migration movements are happening? Those are just some of a whole list of things that you can really go through and go into to do your research properly.
100%.
And there's tons of resources out there to do that.
And I think it's about analyzing the data correctly, being able to understand what it means. It's all well and good to see it and know the numbers, but actually analyzing and comprehending, okay, based on that goal that I spoke about in step 2, does this align with the overall objective? And like you said, it can all vary, whether it's a townhouse or a house. Is it regional? Is it capital city? These things are things that you need to understand so that, you're working towards that goal.
Yeah, well said. So let's recap. We've got a budget. We've got our goals. We've done our research.
Analyzed the data, and we've kind of funneled into an area. And look, this can be intimidating, right? I mean, when I started my journey, I spent hours and hours, weeks on weeks after work trying to do this outside in my spare time, making sure that, it's a lot of money, right? And for me as a young investor, when I started, I didn't want to put my money somewhere where, the property was just going to stay at the same value for years on end. I wanted to make sure I could be as aggressive as possible. So it takes time. very, very simply. So whilst, you're going through pre-approval, I would say this is the best time to get your goal set, your research done, and then making sure you're building a team. If this is something that's intimidating, if it's stressful, if you don't have the time, if you feel like you're going to go into analysis paralysis, make sure you've got people around you that can support you on the journey, I would say. Because, look, for me, I think with having the right team, they're working with you to ultimately drive you closer to the goal. So we say this all the time. It's not a cost to you. It's an investment to you.
Yeah.
It's important to make sure with looking at property investing, you are using it as an asset to build your wealth long term. It's not just about these short-term costs. It's about making sure that you are growing.
Yeah.
And that takes time. But patience is, I guess, a virtue in this situation.
Yeah, definitely. I love that saying, it's not a cost, it's an investment. Because it really is if you've got the right team around you. Love that. Having, a group of people that can connect together. Your broker connects with your BA, connects with your accountant to really just have that holistic approach for you as an individual going through this journey. And what I was going to say was it's like if you're in school, you're kind of picking if you're going to play soccer, you're going to pick your team.
Yes.
You want someone who's a good goalie, you want someone who's a good goal scorer.
That's true.
You want someone who's good in the midfield. They're all going to have their different attributes and things like that. So it's the same thing here. It's just obviously in the property space, right? Like you want someone who's good at identifying good deals and actually negotiating and going out there to find the property for you. You want someone who knows tax law inside and out, and from an investment point of view. You want someone, a broker who's going to actually go out there and spot the best deal for you and negotiate on your behalf with the bank to get you the best rate. All that sort of stuff, right? That's what when we say team, this is what we're talking about is picking that right team on your soccer team.
Exactly. And maybe you're not buying in your individual name. Maybe you're buying through a trust or an SMSF. It's important to have, that support and that definite knowledge base behind you because, there's a lot of legal implications if you do make mistakes in this kind of situation. So I don't say this to make it sound scary. I say this so that, if it is something that you want to do, make sure you have the right support so that you can do it with confidence.
Exactly right. And you're right. There are a lot of legal implications. If you get something wrong on a contract of sale, you can potentially, double stamp duty if you get it wrong. All sorts of stuff can go drastically wrong. But your right team can save you that hassle. So we've got our budget, we've got the goals, we've done our research.
Built our team. I think it just comes down to finding the deal, sourcing the property.
This is where
I love this bit.
So we're marching through the jungle, research. Holy shit, there's so much stuff to do here. We've got a good team of people hacking through the jungle with us. Now we get to sourcing,
visualizing,
and now we've got a whole rock wall to climb. Tell us about the sourcing process.
It's not a wall, it's a hunt. I love it. Like, I feel like actually hunting for the deal is probably the funnest part for me.
You've got to climb the wall to get to the top. Well, then you start hunting.
Yeah. I'll take it like that. But this is essentially based on, everything that you've defined in your research and your goal, where you actually then jump onto realestate.com, jump on the phone to agents and start shortlisting properties that align essentially with your budget and your goals. And this is not easy. This is a lot of communication that you need to do, of course, with the agents to make sure that you're getting the best price, number one, and so you're getting the right property. So between all those comms, before all those back and forward emails, jumping on realestate.com, shortlisting, I think with my approach as like a new investor when I started, I had a tracking little Excel sheet just to make sure I knew what I was looking at, because it's about doing things efficiently from my point of view once you're pre-approved. And once you're pre-approved, you want to hit the ground running. You want to be able to make offers. So having your shortlist done so that in a hot market, you can pick up the phones, call, know whether things are available and track accordingly. That's critical and essential to make sure, you're not wheel spinning once you get pre-approval, and you don't get pushed back if, a deal's not available. So that's pretty important, I think.
Yeah, and you get the joy of speaking with real estate agents, or trying to track real estate agents down, trying to get responses. They're busy, right? They're out prospecting, trying to get new listings, and they're trying to obviously sell properties as well. So they've got a busy job.
Agents.
But yeah, sourcing a deal is probably one of the harder steps of the property journey, because once you've found the deal, you've then got to put an offer in to get the property that you want, right?
Yeah.
And this is where there's two opposing forces here. There's the seller who wants generally the highest price, and the buyer that generally wants the lowest price. But that's actually not the whole equation when you're talking about property, because you might have a seller, it's a distressed sale, they're going through a divorce, they just want to offload the property, they don't give a shit, they just want
get rid of
settlement terms, I want it sold as quickly as possible, right? There's a whole huge array of different reasons why someone's selling a property. So for you as the buyer, this is where having your emotional intelligence sort of fine-tuned to understand, okay, where's the sales agent at? Does this guy or girl just want to offload this property as quickly as possible so they can move on to the next listing? Where's the seller at? Like, is it an investor? Is it an owner occupier? What's the reason for sale? So that when you craft your offer, it's as appealing as it possibly can be, whilst also looking out for your own best interests.
Of course.
All right. So sometimes it's not just about price. Sometimes it's about special terms. You really have to uncover that during your communication with the agent, so that when you put your offer down, it's as appealing as possible, and you can get the deal that you're looking for.
Yeah, well said. I think you highlighted a really good point. Emotional intelligence plays a big part in this process of the whole deal hunt, making sure that you understand the agent, because they get a ton of calls, especially in hot markets on the same property. Sometimes they're not even marked as under offer sometimes. So I can appreciate that a lot of people get frustrated and then want to outsource it, just because of that time consuming aspect. But like you said, it's about crafting that offer so that it's appealing.
Yeah, and looking out for yourself, protecting your neck at the end of the day. And there's going to be times where your offer falls apart. Maybe it's verbally accepted and the seller changed their mind. Maybe it gets accepted and things fall apart during the due diligence phase, which you can maybe share a bit about how that works.
Exactly. So I guess once you have your offer in, it's accepted, you've got your contract signed. The most important part then is getting the whole due diligence aspect sorted. So what does this mean? Once your contract's signed, get your solicitor on board, get your broker informed, get your team up to date with the whole process. I think it's important then to obviously understand your terms of your offer. If you have finance, if you have, your building and your building and pest, it's going to be essential to jump on the phone and organize that as soon as possible. Normally there's a 7 to 14 day term on that. You want to get it done as quickly as possible, be proactive with it so that then you have as much wiggle room. If there's a tenant in there, you need to get it booked in, and that takes time. So as soon as contracts are signed, get on the phone, get it booked. And I think then understanding and uncovering your building and pest report is a whole nother process within itself. Look, I come from a construction background personally. So I think, from my side and my investing strategy, I've always gone ugly duckling just because it just worked in my overall goal. So when I see a couple of cracked tiles, some chip paint, old carpet, I'm like, yes, this is good. Gives me a bit of ability to negotiate further if necessary. So understanding your building and pest, making sure nothing's going to structurally fall down is essential, but knowing that you've got wiggle room to negotiate if necessary, if there are slight structural issues, is a great component and consideration with the whole process.
So let's unpack that a little bit more, because if I'm a new investor, I'm looking at it and I get my building and pest report. There's minor defects, there's major defects, there's all these words on there that make me panic and go, shit, this property's, a lemon. But what you're saying is, so long as the property's, as the structure is not going to collapse on your tenant, and there's, what we would class as minor things, ripped carpet, a dent in the wall. You do go as far to say even if it's cracked tiles, happy to kind of take that on board and then use that as leverage to negotiate down on price.
That's right.
Further. So I think this is a big thing for, because I didn't know this when I was, buying my first couple of properties, right? That it's possible to really get it lower than your offer. Obviously if the seller's willing to, accept those terms.
Yeah. And you can't be unrealistic and silly about it. It's just obviously understanding what you're getting yourself into. Maybe you do need to fix these things straight away for the tenant, depending on what comes up on the report. So making sure that that is a consideration, for the person that's living there, that it's safe, of course. You have a responsibility to your tenant. So you need to factor that into your overall budget. So it is critical. Like, it's not a likely game with that building and pest. You want someone who is genuine, thoroughly understands the building code to make sure you're covered.
They're a licensed builder, ideally, to do that.
For sure.
I just want to circle back to the offer because I just had a thought that came up then. And if you're a lowballer, you can probably forget about buying a property anytime soon. So, and a reason I say I want to highlight this because I know there's people that see prices online. They're like, offers over, 750 or whatever it is, and they want to go, okay, well, 750. All right, so I'm going to put in, maybe like 610, 650 or whatever it might be. You're not going to buy a property doing that. You're going to sit yourself on the sidelines for a very long time. You've got to put in a competitive price, so to help yourself understand that you're not overpaying for a property, look at recent sales in the area for comparable properties of similar configuration, similar land size, etc. So that when you're crafting your offer, you're not being that lowballer dickhead who's not going to get into the property, because the agent's not going to get back to you. They're going to write you off. Even if you try and call them again, they're probably going to ignore you, right? So you're going to damage yourself. So be competitive, right? You want to get the best result, but be competitive.
Yeah, and I think you tend to waste time if you, saving money is saving money. Don't get me wrong. But, in the scheme of things, if you're doing this for months on end trying to get a deal, you're just wasting time in the market. So, save yourself the hassle and the trouble. If it's a good property, it aligns with your goal and objective, get the deal done. Make sure you're not wasting people's time, because I think it's important to be respectful of other people. And someone selling sometimes their home, it's not always an investment property. You don't want to offend people unnecessarily. So there's that EQ, like you said, that's important.
You're right yourself. I just wanted to circle back to that because I sort of didn't sort of go into that when we were talking about offers. So let's take stock here. We've got a budget. We've done our goals. We've done our research. We've built that team, that solid team that's got our back, all the players on the board. We've done the deal sourcing. We've got a property. We've put through an offer. It's competitive. It's been accepted. We've gone through our due diligence phase. We've had our building and pest done. Maybe there were some items on there we're able to negotiate further down on price. Well, hey, maybe it's a great property and there's nothing on there. Beautiful, happy days. We then go into the settlement phase. So this is where once your building and pest is completed, your finance has been fully approved. You then go into what's called an unconditional phase. Now, generally that's a couple of weeks, depending on what your offer sort of stated. This is where if it's an investment property that you're obviously buying, you don't know why I'd be watching this if you're not buying investment properties. Nick, you're an idiot. So I just had a brain snap.
If it's a vacant property, essentially, I'm assuming.
No, what I was trying to articulate was if it's already an investment property, there's already a tenant in there. There's nothing that you really need to do at this point in time. However, if it's an owner-occupier and you want to turn it into an investment property, this is where you'd start to engage with a property manager to then start advertising for a tenant, so that the day that you settle, you've ideally got that, there's no gap period of vacancy. So, current owner moves out, next day tenant moves in, you're starting to collect the rent.
Yeah.
So
It's all about efficiency.
It's all about efficiency and using the time to your advantage.
Yeah.
To make sure that you don't have any vacancy period or it's limited as much as possible.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all about teams. So like your broker, like your BA, like your conveyancer, all of that, your property manager is essential here. So making sure they're on the ball, they're advertising if it's not tenanted already, is important. So then that way, once you hit settlement, it's nice and smooth. I think the other things to consider that I've always got to remember with new investors is to ensure that, you know, your broker has been updated, that it's unconditional, they're all booked in for settlement, everybody's got their dates, you know, all your funds are transferred to the conveyancer, all your paperwork's done. Whenever you get documents in on email, just handball it back.
Yeah.
Like once you see it, get it back out so that you don't have any issues. It's in your team's hands to kind of get you over the line.
Yeah, correct. I think keeping your team updated through the journey is really important, and making sure they're all kind of in the loop. You know, whether you set up a
little tracker,
an email chain with everybody on it, so you just kind of, you know, update everyone as they go through, or a group chat, whatever it is. So that is a summary step-by-step of, you know, how you can go about buying an investment property, whether it's your first one or you've got multiple already. Probably each one of these topics that we've gone through is its own podcast series within itself, but this is just to kind of give you, you know, if you're sitting there going, shit, I don't know where to start. Now you know, like where to start.
If you don't know, now you know.
Where to finish.
So I think to your point, with all these step-by-steps, this whole process, it's important to understand, once again, if you've got the support, if you've got people who understand everything, who've done it before to support you, services like a BA who are competent and have the right contacts will allow you that confidence to do this and not get freaked out and backtrack on your decision. Because if you've got people who are like-minded and experienced, you're going to be able to march in the right direction and make sure you actually get it done. So I think it is essential, you know, with what you've said, having that soccer team around you, people who are experts in their field will make sure that, you know, you're saving yourself money long term.
Yeah.
And I think lastly, what I would say is it's important to celebrate it. Once you're done, got the deal signed, you're settled, it's always incredibly important to recognize your milestone and achievement. So celebrating your whole process and that you've done something so big is an important thing to do, no matter how many properties you've got.
Yeah, it is. The reward is rewarding yourself is important, because when you settle on a property, it is a bit of a non-event. Like you'll just get a text saying, "Hey, property's settled at 2:30 p.m. today," and you're like, okay, where's the fireworks? Where's the
all these months on end?
And it's like, all right, well, that's kind of it. So it is good to reward yourself.
That's right.
So, I mean, just talking from my perspective, like every time I bought a property, you know, you go through that whole settlement thing, all that, you know, weeks and months of hard work, you settle, and then you just get this feeling of like, all right, well, like, what's next? Like, what do I do now? And which I think is a good thing, but I think like rewarding yourself and recognizing that you've just gone through a huge milestone in your life. Just enjoy yourself for a bit.
Exactly.
And work out what is next. Like, what does the next step for you look like? Because the property game, I talk about it all the time, it is a journey. It's not an end game. It continues, right? Because, you know, once upon a time, there was a goal that I had to get to 10 properties. There was a goal to be able to leave my 9-to-5 job behind. And then when you achieve those things, it's great. But then you're like, all right, well, what's next? Like, how do I get to the next level? And you'll start to have new goals and bigger dreams and more things that you want to achieve. And that's the beauty of the whole game, beauty of life, really.
Being a human.
Just having that, like, you know, those things to strive for.
Exactly. And I mean, it's such a special thing. I think, not to nerd out further, but, you know, like you're saying, this is not just one property end goal. If it's a journey for you and you want to grow a portfolio, I think the last step in the whole process is tracking your property. It's incredibly important to make sure that, you know, your analysis and your projections are there, so that during the whole process, once you've settled and are holding the property, you have clear insight on your numbers. You know, I'm the type of person that stresses out if I don't know what's going on with my financial life. So having those check-ins give you that comfort to know that, okay, yes, might be costing me a bit of money, or yeah, strata's due, but okay, I'm going to be able to see like a lump sum at the end of the month of this or that.
Yeah, it is important.
yeah.
And I think also to know if you've got a dud property, because, hey, maybe you did pick up a dud property. You didn't know what you're doing. Maybe you bought in the wrong area. It's not
Maybe
performing.
you heard from the barbecue mate that this is the
Yeah,
spot.
and because there's a lot of that. So kind of knowing, hey, this property's not performing as I expected. Maybe I've got to do something. Maybe it's offloading it. Maybe it's refinancing it. Maybe it's whatever, right? So tracking is an important part of just managing your portfolio. Manage it like a business.
Yeah. And the more you do it, I will say it gets funner and funner, because, you know, you see
You are
property.
just a property nerd, by the way. The more you do it, the more it gets funner.
Stop it.
I love my tracking. You've got to get your
Stop it.
You've got to get your trackers, guys. You say that in like every episode. Make sure you track it. Get your Excel and track
people
it.
don't. So I think,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm the pot kettle black over here, because I've got my trackers, like my trackers.
Exactly.
My trackers track the trackers that are tracking the trackers.
when we met and I saw my tracker and I saw yours, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I'll just be quiet over here. But I think that's all we got time for today. And there's definitely, like, I know for a fact we just went through a lot of value. If you're brand new to it, you know, I hope you took notes from that. If not, rewind and watch it again.
Download the ebook.
Download the ebook. If we can be bothered, we'll put it in the description, because this social media stuff sucks.
Stop it. You got to do it.
Yeah, no, it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. But that's all we have time for. Thanks for obviously going through all the things that we went through today, and thanks to everybody for watching, I guess, at the end of the day. That's all. I've lost my pen, I've lost my marbles, but that's all for today. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you soon.
Thank you.